Hello, everyone, and welcome to our last episode of FieldMade's D2C Inspiration Series, where we're partnering up with experts to talk to the founders and marketers of leading brands. I'm Tina. You've heard it before, but I lead marketing here at FieldMade, and we're a Shopify agency that specializes in custom development and design, conversion rate optimization, and Klaviyo email and SMS marketing. I have a really awesome guest here today with me. I have Kat from Shopping Gives, a software I really love, and I love the mission behind. We also have Meredith and Jamie from Hive Brands. So thank you so much, everyone, for joining today. Why don't we go around and introduce yourself, a bit about your role and the company that you work for. And Kat, let's start with you.
Hi guys, my name is Kat. I'm an account manager here at Shopping Gives, which is a donation technology that allows brands to kind of seamlessly integrate our tech into their e-commerce platforms and allow that to dedicate donations over to the causes that they are passionate about.
Perfect. And Meredith, let's go over to you.
Hi, everyone. I'm Meredith. I head up our product team at Hive Brands. I've been at Hive for about 4 months now. We're a relatively new company. We are an online e-commerce platform, mainly groceries, and we really aim to connect people with brands to allow them to shop their values. So we're primarily focused on sustainability, but also just doing good in the world. And I guess a little bit of background on me as well. I'm originally from Canada, but live in the New York area, and our Hive team is spread all over the country, working remotely together to do good in the world.
Amazing. Fellow Canadian here, by the way, so welcome. And then Jamie, what about you?
Hi, everyone. My name is Jamie. I am the head of sustainability and impact at Hive Brands. Meredith did a great job setting us up. But yes, we are pretty new. We've round the corner into 1 year in October. So we are really excited about our 1 year anniversary.
Congratulations. That's awesome. Today, I'm super excited about the conversation. Obviously, with Shopping Gives being here, we're going to be talking about having a mission behind your brand, supporting and getting customers involved in that and what it means to them too. And obviously, all of this really plays into a long-term retention game as well. So we're also going to be talking about a lot of retention tactics, which Hive is just crushing at doing. So Kat, I'm going to pass things over to you to lead the Q&A today as our expert.
Great. Thanks so much, Tina. Appreciate it. And I think Meredith did a very good job kind of leaning into a little bit of background on Hive. But Jamie, I'd love to kind of hop in and kind of start off at the beginning and talk a little bit about the background on Hive Brands and how you guys kind of got started.
Yeah, absolutely. It's pretty interesting. So our founders set out to basically create a place where business could be a force for good. We always say that Hive is a place where you can shop your values. And really, that's how the inception of the company started. We wanted to, based on a lot of consumer research and just soul searching, we wanted to be a place that consumers could actually use their purchases as decisions to reflect their values. And also highlight a lot of independent brands that are already living those values and making an impact. And so we decided that it would be great if we could somehow make a marketplace that connects those two worlds. And we also wanted to do that with a mission in mind, which is changing retail for the better. And so Hive Brands was born as a place to shop by causes that are close to your heart, as well as to just, trust that you're doing better with the products you are seeing walking through our quote unquote door. And so as I mentioned before, we just rounded a year in October. We are fully e-commerce. Our entire team is remote, and we focus on shelf-stable grocery, but we're always looking to expand our product assortment. So this is a big milestone for us, and we're only hoping to get better from here.
Awesome. Yeah. And Jamie, that's so exciting that you guys rounded out your first year of business. I know you guys are doing awesome work, and it's super exciting to hear how you guys have made, these sustainable products and products that have this really strong backing accessible to everybody. So that kind of leads me into my next question. I would love to hear a little bit more about how you guys, filled this hole in the market. Like, how did you guys take a look at, the existing marketplace of grocery, and then kind of identify this hole that like you needed to make these sustainable products, accessible to your consumers? How did you guys kind of identify that and jump in there?
Yeah, absolutely. So as we approach this with the mission of changing retail for the better, that is no small feat, as any consumer will tell you, and any brand will tell you. I mean, the average person is barraged by huge issues in the world every day, many of which are tied to just individual and consumer behavior. And so, we notice that there's so much noise, there's so many conflicting messages. Every product has a different seal of approval on an item. It's very confusing, even if you are an educated consumer and you want to do better. I mean, nobody would fault you for just kind of throwing your hands up and saying, I do what I can, I try.
Right.
And so, again, we wanted to be that place where we could connect the dots for the consumer, making sustainability and doing better more accessible to the person. And we, based on a lot of market research, consumers are increasingly more aware of the impact of their purchases. So they're looking for more. But as I mentioned a minute ago, it's really hard to actually know where to direct that energy. And so the hole that we're trying to fit is we want to be that place where, yes, you can learn more about why things are better. We provide a lot of transparency into our process for vetting products, as well as a number of educational resources on key issues that are out there when it pertains to grocery and supply chain. But we also want to be that place where you can just kind of trust that we're doing the work for you based upon the rigorous standards that we've set just by walking through the door. So we don't want that to be onerous on the consumer either. And so we're always changing and evolving and learning along with everyone else. But we present a safe space, if you will, for trusting that there is something better that you're doing with something you would do anyway, which is shopping for groceries.
Right. And I think it's so important, especially because there is such a reality of where there's so much information out there, and with different words that fly around, people will just get overwhelmed. And like you said, throw their hands up and say, I just need groceries. I want to do good, but I'm overwhelmed. So I think this is like a huge, huge thing that you guys have done, and really just taking that and doing the vetting process for everybody is removing so many steps for people to make more sustainable decisions in their life. But Jamie, I think you also talked about one or referenced one topic that I wanted to ask about. I know you guys have these like Hive 5 standards that I would love to hear you guys talk a little bit more about, and talk about why they're so important to you guys over at Hive.
Absolutely. So the Hive 5 standards are essentially how we've developed our framework for vetting and distilled it into easily digestible 5 category identifier. So we're looking at packaging, we're looking at ingredient supply chain, carbon footprint, and causes that the brand and product might be related to. In addition to the last pillar is focusing on overall product quality, its taste, its efficacy, because we also are finding that for something to be green or better or support a social movement, that doesn't mean that you have to compromise on taste, like or cleaning efficacy. So it's great that your chocolate doesn't support slave labor, but if it tastes like cardboard, what good is that, right? So um, we created these standards because it's really important to create transparency at every point in the supply chain. If you are trying to stop big issues like child labor or deforestation, you can't do that unless you actually can see from point of sale to point of origin and use that transparency to demand better practices. And so we want to give customers the tools to do that. And Hive 5 is kind of our lever for transparency to help people demand better. And we really want to create a groundswell of consumers asking for that better, so that better isn't better anymore. It's just the table stakes of the practice for the industry. And so we don't compromise on these standards, but we are flexible on how brands meet them, because we want to be able to bring people along on their sustainability journey in a way that makes sense for them.
Right. And I think that's such an important concept too, Jamie, is like bringing to light the sometimes unfortunate realities that do exist around some products that we use every day. And when you make it well known, customers, like you said, start to understand, like, wait a second, if this is so prevalent, like, why is it so widely accepted? And the more you point it out, the more people are like, wait, we need to change the conversation and change the expectations of the brands that we support. And I think it's really incredible that you guys have made that a large pillar of who you guys are over there at Hive. And then one last question that I did have on some background about you guys, I would love to hear a little bit more about, now that you guys have identified that marketplace, you kind of identified what you guys stand for and these pillars that matter so much to you. How did you guys generate an audience online and get in touch with them? How did you find these people, and what tactics work best for reaching your target audience?
Yeah, absolutely. It's a great question. So the first and foremost, the step one is to connect them by offering what they want, right?
Right.
So we want them to have clarity in what they're buying. We want them to have a shopping experience that fits their lifestyles and values. And then we want them to have confidence that their decisions are truly making an impact. And the second step from there is to make sure we're meeting them where they are versus expecting them to come to us. So we're extremely active on social media and emails. We work hand in hand with our brand partners to connect their audience. And we use paid tactics like TV, direct mail, search engine marketing to move shoppers along through that buying journey.
Awesome. And have you noticed that your customers are really active on social as well? I feel like that's probably a sweet spot of where people are getting a lot of this information.
Yeah, absolutely. Like we were saying, there's so much information out there. People look
Right.
to social nowadays to really just get those digestible facts. And so we're finding that's a great spot for us to kind of capture people who are looking to, adjust their lifestyle for the better.
Right. And I even, there's so many things, like even on Instagram or wherever you are, you get like a little, one piece of information that's like, wait a second, this one brand is doing something that's good. Let me dive in a little bit. And then suddenly, you've got a new customer that's really excited about your brand and what you guys do. So I think that's really important. And thank you for sharing that. Appreciate it. So now that we've kind of laid the foundation of who you guys are, what you guys stand for, I want to jump in, Jamie, and talk a little bit about the commitments that we've worked together this past year on, and talk a little bit about like high level how you guys got started in giving, and then also jump into like the exact commitments and activations that we did this year, because you guys did such an awesome amount of donation and created such impact this year. But starting a little bit high level, I wanted to chat a little bit about how you guys remained authentic to who you were when you were identifying ways to give back and causes to support. How did you guys kind of come to understand that and make sure you guys were supporting things that meant the most to you?
Yeah, absolutely. So when I was first building out our giving campaign strategy, what I really did not want to do was to fall into the common company pitfall of what is traditionally a CSR model. And what that means is that I don't want to write a check to just feel better or for PR or, even with the best of intentions without thinking a little bit more deeply as to is that authentic to what we're doing? So, as individuals and as a company, we have an impact in the world just by operating and existing. And so we took a chance and looked at what we're actually doing in terms of our footprint, in terms of our supply chain, in terms of what our consumers are passionate about. And I wanted to build our giving campaign strategy around that, in addition to our carbon offset portfolio. So there's a lot of thought given to, okay, where is our biggest risk? Like, what is our consumer demographic? And again, things that they're passionate about. And what are some of the challenges that we see as a food system player, as a grocer with global supply chains? And from there, where are the key touch points? We'd love to give to everything under the sun, but we are still small and mighty, but growing company. And so we have to kind of temper the expectations of what we can do. But we've looked at Earth Month is definitely a key piece for us, looking at ocean plastic cleanup partners, global education for our back to school collections, fighting hunger over the holidays. And we also leave some space for opportunistic giving for big issues that come down along the pike. Like we had a partner in the fall of Women for Afghan Women, and then another incidents of opportunistic giving. My father had a stroke many years ago, and so we did a campaign to give back to the Stroke Comeback Center, which helped him get literally back on his feet. So a lot of thought and intention given to the strategy for giving.
Right. I think that that makes so much sense for you guys. And also it's really great to hear about, there are the larger moments that happen throughout the year that make sense for your company, but also to kind of ladder back to, there are some moments that you guys can't plan for, whether that's personal to everybody that works over at Hive, or, something that goes on in the world that aligns with your mission that you guys want to do. I think it's really awesome to hear about kind of the ways that you guys both planned out your giving, and then also recognize, like, wait, we need to be quick and pivot and make sure that we are being relevant and supporting something that we do care about that's happening right now, and not something that you can plan 6 months in advance for. But speaking on some of those campaigns, Jamie, I'd love to talk a little bit about some of the campaigns that you ran this year and talk in more detail about a few of them that you did run. So do you have any details that you wanted to share about, like, the Hunger Coalition for the holidays, or even some of the other ones that you mentioned this past year? I'd love to hear about how you guys kind of decided to set that up and kind of what you chose to move forward with.
Yes, absolutely. So we really loved the Hunger Coalition in particular because it was a chance for, as I said, we're a small company, and so we donate what we can whenever we can. But it's really exciting and heartening to join kind of broader collective action movements like the Hunger Coalition that we ran with you in partnership with you all at Shopping Gives. And it was great to be able to select, even out of that, partners that were authentic to us. So the Food Bank of New York, and also Heifer International, again, because we are a food systems based company, those made real sense in terms of giving a campaign for us. And then we ran Pencils of Promise in the fall because we do a lot of our back to school pushes. And so it just made sense to support someone who's doing a lot of work in global education campaigns through that giving area. And then, as I mentioned before, we were working with Women for Afghan Women when there was a lot of, when the Taliban took over back in the fall. And so we wanted to really show up to pertinent things that people were knowing about and caring about, to just show support in a way that we felt was authentic, because we do have supply chains and brands that work with suppliers in Afghanistan. And so we wanted to help support that cause. And then we also ran with a company that I volunteer, or an organization that I volunteer with, for Pride here locally in Arkansas. Again, leaving room for some of these partners that are just really key touch points for us throughout the year, and things that our customers and even our staff and our company are truly supportive of and truly care about.
Right. And Jamie, it's so awesome to hear you talk about these. I have a few numbers that I wanted to share with everybody because Hive did such a great job running these campaigns. Last year, they raised a combined $44,000 across all of their causes. And this was just as they got going, I believe, like around mid-year or a little bit before mid-year. So much impact that was created. And even for the Hunger Coalition specifically, I think their campaign ran for about 2 months, and they were able to raise close to $19,000 for Heifer International and Food Bank for Greater New York, I believe is the correct term there. But just immense impact that you guys created. It was so awesome to see how you guys, remained authentic to both your company, your people, your employees, and your audience, and just really did create such an awesome amount of impact last year. So thank you, Jamie, for talking about that. And then Jamie, would love to hear a little bit about if you've got any plans to share for 2022. I know you guys are still working through finalizing some things, but very excited to see what you guys are going to do this year.
Yeah, so last year was kind of an experiment in giving, I guess you could call it. And this year we're really looking to, keep the door open for a lot of those opportunistic moments that I touched on, but looking at a little bit more of an institutional strategy with some key partners that we can build a deeper and broader relationship with. Still in the works, still in the oven, so more to come there, but that's kind of where our thought process is right now.
Awesome. Yeah, I'd love to hear that. And I think it's great, to identify something that you could support evergreen throughout the entire year this year and focus on some of that is really awesome. Peppering in obviously those opportunities where, it makes sense to kind of act on your part at Hive Brands. Well, thank you guys so much, or Jamie, thank you for touching about that. Meredith, I would love to kind of hop into another topic that we've spoken about with you guys that's really important and something that plays a large role in everything that goes on over at Hive Brands and in the world kind of. Would love to chat a little bit more about the kind of importance of customer retention and how you guys have cultivated that as a brand. I know that there's a pretty staggering statistic that nearly 74% of retailers' customers are one-time buyers. So they kind of are one and done, which is makes it tough to retain customers and makes it really hard to kind of make sure that you guys are driving customers back to your sites and getting them to continue to purchase with you guys. So I'd love to shift the conversation a little bit over to that and hear, Meredith, some of your thoughts on the most critical components of driving retention.
Yeah, I think that's a fantastic question. And you definitely hit the nail on the head with, from a product perspective, what one of our biggest focus areas for 2022 is. When I think of those components to driving retention, I really think of three key areas. The first is really the basics, cultivating a good customer experience. And this is everything from your first touch. So whether that's an ad that reaches a consumer or their first time on your site, all the way through to, for us, the unboxing of your products at home. What is the packaging like? What condition do the products come to your home in? And how do you feel about that experience? And for us, first impressions are super important because we are trying to convert people to purchase again from us. So that's a really core fundamental piece that we focus on. But then on top of that, there's really two other areas. You want to be solving a real defined customer need and a problem. So whether that's convenience, whether it's providing consumers a way to shop for products they can't find elsewhere, we're aiming to solve more than just one of those customer problems. But by doing that, you're really ensuring that consumers are going to come back organically because they want to, because you're solving that problem for them. And then the last area, really, like when all else fails, you also want to give consumers and first-time purchasers a reason to come back to your site. And there's so many different ways that you can do that. You can do promotions. You can focus on product discovery, featuring new products that are in your store. You can also focus on encouraging people to replenish the products they've purchased from you in the past. There's so many different reasons why someone would come back to your site, and really making sure that you are focusing on impactful ways to do that.
Mm-hmm. Well, thank you, Meredith. That's super helpful. And I want to touch on a little bit of the last point specifically, because I think it's so important. Are there specific tactics that Hive is specifically using to kind of drive retention, like the promotions or like the replenishing of different products that you use every day that you would need a refill of is really smart. So would love to hear a little bit more about how you guys are specifically using those retention tactics.
Yeah, definitely. So I'd say we have a very large and ambitious roadmap for this year with many different strategies and features on it. But to distill them down into two key themes, and then throughout this, I'll give some examples, more tangible examples of what we're doing. Great. But the first theme for us is streamlining the path to purchase. So we are a retailer that has a very large assortment. We have over 1.5 thousand products. And we want to make that shopping experience as easy for customers as possible, but that can be really hard when they're going through pages and pages of products. Mm-hmm. So really focusing on personalizing that shopping experience and tailoring it to unique customer needs, and making sure they can just quickly access the information they want and find the products that they want. So really just streamlining that experience for them. And then the second theme that we're focused on is encouraging customers to build habits with us. So what we do know right now, just due to the nature of our assortment and the stage of the life cycle we're in for our company, we're not currently a primary shop for most of our customers. So we want to make sure we're still reminding them that we're here and ensuring that they think of us when they're restocking their pantries and when they're grocery shopping. So to do that, we want to make it easier for them to build habits. And I know you mentioned replenishment, so auto ship is something we launched a few months ago and we're focusing on optimizing, but that's a great way to build habits with customers.
Yeah, that's awesome. And definitely to your point, I think like making sure to kind of create the habit of, oh, I would usually go to my big box store like Target or Meijer or wherever you're ending up. I'm from the Midwest here with Meijer, but making sure to remind people that like, oh wait, I did kind of leverage a more sustainable option the last time, and having it top of mind, I think is super important. So thanks for sharing that. That's super helpful. And then kind of in the topic of retention and loyalty, I think there's a big aspect that kind of comes into play with customers, and that's brand trust, which is more and more important on the rise right now, especially given where we are in the current dynamic of the world. But would love to hear a little more about, what kind of brand trust means to you guys at Hive and how you guys created this, because it is something that's so important, like you said, of if people are getting grocery products and they're getting it for the first time, how did you guys continue to develop that trust as a brand and then execute through the kind of the first purchase?
Yeah, so I think Jamie did a fantastic job of teeing me up because he already built that trust with you guys on this call. But as you know, trust is a major part of our value proposition as a brand. We want to become the trusted partner that consumers can turn to when they want to shop sustainably. Obviously, that's a really big task, and it takes a lot of effort to build that trust and a lot of time on our end. So the first thing that we focus on is really just being very transparent with customers about how we vet our products. So Jamie touched on the Hive 5, our criteria that we built ourselves to assess each product that we offer on our site. We try to do a really thorough job of explaining this criteria in depth on our site and giving consumers information on how it applies to each of the products that we offer. And we know just from doing a lot of research and speaking to our customers that they really care about this information. So we want to make sure that it's easy to find on our site. And we also do include a little bit more information than a typical online grocer would on our product detail pages and elsewhere on our site, because we know that's what our customers want. And then secondly, we know that brand trust is not isolated just to what we sell on our site, but it's also cultivated through the experiences that consumers have with us. Right. So we really try to think of each of our customers like a member of the Hive family. And through every single interaction that we have with them, we really try to make that apparent and really try to build that relationship and rapport. And I think to give a shout out to our Hive customer care team, they are truly best in class and they do a fantastic job at that whenever they interact with our customers.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I think that's so important too. I think that there's definitely a need for really, really strong customer service. And especially it's so tough when you are like, even just as a person going to try and fix something or like have a question on something, making sure you're getting a really good experience is something that's really difficult and sometimes can be so frustrating if you go to a brand that doesn't have that kind of core value of customer service in there, that sometimes you can just walk away from the whole experience and just be like, ugh, I'm so frustrated. I'm not going to shop there again because it just wasn't something that I wanted to experience. So thank you for that. And then how have you guys kind of seen this brand trust turn into customer loyalty for you guys specifically? Have you had that kind of change that specifically happened where you have these repeat customers?
Yeah, so great question. We've definitely done our homework in regards to this one. So there's so many stats out there that you can read that basically tell you that across the retail industry, a majority of customers, I think like the number that's sticking top of mind for me is like 88% buy from trusted brands more often. And so we know that trust and repeat buying behavior are linked. And as I said before, we know our consumers are really hungry for that information. They want to learn about how they can make an impact while they're shopping. And so for us at Hive, as I mentioned before, we provide that educational content. We want to give them that information and give them confidence in their buying decisions. And that in turn organically helps to encourage repeat purchasing behavior. And there's so many different ways that you can do it. That's really just the start. And I do think at Hive, we're still barely scratching the surface. So there's so much more that we want to explore here, whether that's leveraging impact stats that consumers generate when they make purchases, to help gamify their experience and really teach them about that impact that they're making, to loyalty programs. This is just really the starting point for us.
Right. And I know that we've talked a little bit about how we could kind of work together to do that and make sure we're providing some of those stats to your customers to know and see not only are their purchases kind of, sustainable in and of themselves, but with the donations that you guys are doing and the support that you guys are doing to your causes, tracking their progress along the way. So I know that's potentially on the roadmap for this year. So excited to kind of work with you guys on that as well. And then as we're kind of moving down through this, I did want to talk to you guys a little bit about what has been the most effective for you guys in capturing this audience and making sure to kind of drive them back to your site. I know you've touched on a few things here and gone into this a little bit, but would love to hear maybe your top 1-2 things that have worked really well for you guys as you're talking about this kind of retention strategy.
Yeah, for sure. So I'll touch on some themes, and then I'll give you a little peek behind the curtain at what's actually on our roadmap. I think the first thing, I keep saying this, but habit building, that's so important. And so for us, making it easier for customers to make those repeat purchases for us is so important and critical to retention. So focusing on convenience and automation of those repeat purchases is a big part of that. So auto ship, something I mentioned before, but there's also other like simpler, more low-hanging fruit related tactics. So allowing customers while they're browsing to start populating a wish list of products they might want to try in the future, allowing them to quickly navigate to products that they've previously purchased to buy them again. These are all things that aren't available within Shopify out of the box, but are some really, really impactful tactics to encourage people to continue growing their list of products that they'd like to purchase from you and coming back to actually deliver on that promise. So habit building, so important. Secondly, really unique to us and to some other retailers as well, is that impact piece. So we want to show people how they can accelerate their impact. We know our customers are very mission driven and we want to teach them about that, as I mentioned before. So gamification of impact stats is something that is really impactful and I think has a lot of opportunity in the future as well for us to experiment with even more. And then lastly, product discovery. Our customers love the unique brands and products that we feature on our site and they want to keep trying more of them. So bringing in a level of personalization to their browsing experience, as well as featuring new and exciting products that we think they'll love, is really, really effective.
That's awesome. Thank you. And I'm even thinking of myself right now, how many times I have wish list items and how often I circle back to them, which I actually do. So I love this idea of kind of, people, if they might not need something right now, but it'll encourage them to kind of circle back the next time they do autofill something they do more regularly purchase, tossing in that next item that they're like, oh, I did want to try that the last time, I'll try it this time. But thank you, Meredith. That is super helpful. And I wanted to kind of open this question back up. It's taking a little bit of a step back here. And I know we've covered a lot of topics on brand trust and retention, but I know there is a reality of brands that are a little bit daunted by jumping into the social impact space. It's a large undertaking and it's something where it's like Pandora's box. You open it and your options are kind of endless. So I would love to kind of, as we're rounding out our discussion today, ask you guys both about what would be your advice or biggest tips for a brand that's venturing into the kind of social impact space for the first time, or how they could lead that back to customer retention and really make sure that those two things are working hand in hand.
Sure, I'm happy to kick that question off. And then Meredith would love your insights too. I think from a giving perspective and from a mission perspective, my advice would really be that retention we've seen as more of a benefit of building a company in the right manner. So, when we're talking about the inception of Hive, we didn't set out to build an e-commerce platform that captivated the most return customers out there, right? We set out to build a company around a mission in an authentic way and in a trustworthy way. And that really resonates with people. The consumer today is really smart. They can see through a PR ploy like a mile away. And writing a check for a philanthropic cause is really great, sure, but it's not enough anymore. People want business done better. And so if your mission is truly core to how you operate and you're giving as authentic in that way, the storytelling and consumer loyalty will follow suit from there. And I think another insight I have is that people want to know when we're thinking about any sort of giving or any sort of mission-based work, the why in addition to the what nowadays. So connecting the dots for them, and it doesn't have to be onerous, but just letting them know we're standing behind this cause for X reason, and we feel that this approach will shift Y, is really helpful. It's any more nebulous do-gooding doesn't really pull people in, and it doesn't develop a strong connection to the mission itself. And so again, in that way, it's just operating a business authentically and trustworthy that we're finding really, really resonates with people.
Jamie, I think you did a fantastic job of answering that. I have just a few things that I'll add on top of that. I think from my perspective, it's so important to bring consumers along for the ride. So we are doing all of this work and we are trying to educate customers. And as I mentioned before, we know that our customers really do want all of that information. So how can we make sure that they really feel like they're part of the journey with us? That's something that's been really, really impactful for us in building that relationship and trust with our customers. And I definitely think that would be a big piece of advice. And then the last thing that I would add is just at the end of the day, you still want to build a good business. If your business isn't able to grow and scale, then you can't scale the impact that your business is able to contribute either. So really focusing on the fundamentals and building a strong foundation for your business is so important as well.
Right. Yeah, exactly. You definitely want to make sure you've got your 2 feet on the ground before you're kind of jumping into the social impact aspect of it. But also, Jamie, I think the portion that you spoke about of just being transparent and letting everybody know, and Meredith, you touched on this too, but just bringing everybody along for the ride and making sure they understand, if you guys are supporting a cause for Alzheimer's or something that doesn't directly relate to what you guys are as a company, just make it known that it's something that you guys have been really passionate about, and it'll show kind of the passion that exists within the company. And if it does relate directly to your company, it'll make sense to your customers, and then just share some more details there. So thank you guys so much. I know we covered a lot in a very short amount of time. So Jamie and Meredith, I wanted to say thank you guys so much for hanging out with me, chatting with me today about retention and kind of social impact today that you guys created through Hive. And just really wanted to say thank you guys so much. I appreciate it. And I will, if you guys don't have any last kind of remarks, I will hand it back over to Tina.
Awesome. Yeah, just echoing what Kat already said. Thank you so much for your time. And Kat, thank you for your time as well. I've learned so much listening in today. I love what you're doing and how you're approaching your mission-based company. I think so many people are going to learn from this. Before we wrap things up though, where can people learn more about Hive Brands and Shopping Gives? And I guess let's start with Hive Brands, whoever wants to answer that.
Sure, I'll go. So you can check out hivebrands.com or also our Instagram handle, Hive Brands Official. We love more followers, but we also love people shopping their value. So you can check out, as Meredith mentioned, lots of details on the site on each product and why they're doing better than the average bear.
Awesome. And Kat, what about Shopping Gives?
Yeah, so you guys could head over to shoppinggives.com, and that's 2 G's. So shopping with a G and then another G for gives.com. You could see as a brand, if you guys are interested in doing social impact and creating impact on every purchase that you make, or even doing some customer incentives for them to donate as well, we're your guys. We'll be happy to talk to you. And if you wanted to get in touch and chat about that, I will send over my email to Tina so that it can make it into the book, but it's also kat@shoppinggives.com if you wanted to reach out and had any questions.
Perfect. And yeah, building off of what Kat just said, we have an ebook that's available to download, and it features all of the conversations that we've been having with our partners and the brands throughout this entire inspiration series. So there's tons of stories, tactics, metrics, case studies, and so much more, all in this downloadable ebook. So I'll link to it in the comments. You should definitely download it and learn how you can really help build a better business across the entire customer journey from acquisition to retention. So enjoy, and thank you so much for watching this series with us.